Yes, my friends, things are heating up around the Baltimore Ravens, and we need to talk about something that is already getting Ravens fans fired up. We all know Lamar Jackson is one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in football, and when a play breaks down, there may be nobody you would rather have with the ball in his hands. But somehow, Dan Orlovsky ranked Lamar only 8th in second reaction ability, 8th, behind names like Sam Darnold, Bo Nix, and Brock Purdy. So I really want to know which side you are on. Do you think Lamar is being disrespected again, or do you believe this ranking is fair? Write your opinion in the comments. And if you've been a Baltimore Ravens fan for more than 15 years, hit that like button hard, because there's a lot happening in Baltimore right now. Lamar just had one of his best practices of training camp, and Ravens football is finally coming back. So, let's talk about Lamar Jackson and everything happening with the Ravens. Now, Ravens flock, we need to start with Lamar Jackson because there's a lot to unpack here. Dan Orlovsky released his rankings of NFL quarterbacks by individual traits, looking at categories such as arm strength, decision-making, pocket presence, mechanics, ball placement, rushing ability, and what he described as second reaction ability. That last category immediately became the biggest talking point. The basic idea is simple. What does a quarterback do when the original play breaks down? The defense destroys plan A, pressure arrives, the pocket changes, and suddenly the quarterback has to create something that was not there when the ball was snapped. If you have watched Lamar Jackson throughout his career, you already understand why Ravens fans immediately paid attention to this category. According to the ranking discussed in the source, Lamar was 8th. Yes, 8th. Josh Allen was ranked 1st, followed by Caleb Williams, Patrick Mahomes, Drake May, Sam Darnold, Bo Nix, and Brock Purdy. Only after those 7 names came Lamar Jackson. That is the ranking that created such a strong reaction, because creating something when a play breaks down has been one of the defining parts of Lamar's game. One example mentioned was Baltimore's Week 18 game against Pittsburgh. The play broke down. Steelers defenders were coming at Lamar, and somehow he escaped and found Zay Flowers for a touchdown. And that is hardly the only example Ravens fans have seen. Lamar's combination of movement, awareness, and ability to keep looking downfield when everything around him is changing has produced plays that few quarterbacks can make. The discussion even brought up a play where he dropped a football, recovered it, and still managed to complete a pass. That is why putting Lamar 8th in this particular category was so difficult for the hosts to understand. And the description of the category itself only made the ranking more confusing. It was about creativity, throwing from unusual angles and platforms, mobility and field vision when the planned play no longer works. Those are qualities Ravens fans have watched Lamar display for years. At least there was one category where there was no debate: rushing ability. Lamar was ranked number 1. But the questions did not end there. In pocket presence, Lamar came in 6th. Drake May, Joe Burrow, Sam Darnold, Justin Herbert, and Dak Prescott were placed ahead of him. Then came decision-making with the football. Lamar was ranked 7th, while Josh Allen was number 1. Matthew Stafford was 2nd, followed by Jordan Love, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and Dak Prescott. Lamar was 7th, followed by Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts. Again, that sparked a major discussion. One argument raised in Lamar's defense was his history of limiting interceptions. His career high was 13 interceptions in 2021, and outside of that season, according to the discussion, he had never thrown more than 9. Over the previous 4 years referenced in the source, he had never thrown more than 7. That was contrasted with Allen's turnover history, and the hosts made it clear that they were not trying to say Allen is a bad quarterback. Actually, the opposite. They repeatedly acknowledged Allen as one of the best quarterbacks in football. The frustration was about how these individual traits were being ranked and how Lamar could be held to an incredibly high standard in one conversation and then placed behind several quarterbacks in areas where his ability has been obvious. That continued in other categories. Lamar was number 10 in mechanics. He was number 8 in ball placement. He was number 9 in arm strength. The arm strength ranking was another one that stood out. The discussion pointed toward Lamar's ability to push the football downfield and his strong numbers in categories related to yards per attempt. Justin Herbert was 2nd in arm strength, while Josh Allen was 1st. So this is not really about demanding that Lamar be number 1 in every category. That would be unrealistic. The bigger issue is consistency. If someone wants Allen first in one category, fine. If Mahomes is first somewhere else, fine. There are several elite quarterbacks in this league, and reasonable people can disagree about the exact order. But eighth and second reaction ability for Lamar Jackson? That is where Ravens fans are going to have questions. And the timing makes this conversation even more interesting, because while people outside Baltimore are debating Lamar's traits, Lamar himself just went out and had an outstanding training camp practice. According to the practice report discussed in the source, Lamar unofficially finished 12 of 13 during team drills on Thursday. He did not miss a pass in 11-on-11 work and connected for chunk gains with Rashad Bateman and rookie Jacoby Lane. Bateman's play was particularly encouraging. He was back at practice and reportedly caught a pass of more than 35 yards on a deep crosser. For a Ravens offense that had experienced some difficult stretches against the defense during camp, getting Bateman back and immediately seeing him involved was exactly the kind of development Baltimore wanted.
Lamar also showed what he can do with his legs, taking off multiple times and making defenders miss for significant gains. That matters because this offense is still adapting. The discussion described defensive coordinator Declan Doyle's system as complex and pointed out that the offense has needed time to become comfortable with it. The encouraging part is that Lamar appears to have a strong command of what Baltimore is installing, and the Ravens have reportedly been able to expand the offense faster than originally expected. That does not mean every practice will look perfect. Training camp is designed to test players. Baltimore also has a defense capable of making life extremely difficult for an offense. But progress is what you want to see. And Thursday sounded like progress. Bateman was back. Lamar was sharp. Lane continued to make an impression. Zay Flowers was also mentioned for a nice toe-dragging catch near the sideline, while Devontae Walker flashed his speed and caught a perfectly placed throw from Lamar against cover 2. Lane, however, continues to be one of the most fascinating stories of camp. The catches naturally get attention. Fans love the spectacular plays. They love one-handed catches, spins, and anything that looks like it came from a video game. But there is another part of Lane's game that may matter even more when Baltimore decides who deserves snaps. Blocking. Lane's blocking continues to stand out, and one example from practice came when he delivered a good frontside block on a Derrick Henry run. That is how a young receiver earns trust. A highlight catch can get everybody talking for a day. Blocking for Derrick Henry and doing the small things correctly can convince the coaching staff to put you on the field when the games actually count. In this offense, being a complete receiver matters. And imagine what it means when Derrick Henry knows a young wide receiver is willing and capable of helping create running lanes for him. That type of effort may never receive the attention of a touchdown catch, but coaches notice it. Veterans notice it. And it can be the difference between watching from the sideline and becoming part of the offense. The tight end room also finally provides